Thanks for joining us again. Our next section is going to be overriding struts actions. So Apache Struts is an MVC framework that has now been deprecated and has been replaced by MVC action commands. However, we're still using it for portal functionalities like login and logout, for changing user language, and for updating layouts. Liferay is using the version 1.3 for Apache Struts. Some Struts basic concepts to go over are the action servlet, the action controller, the action form, and the view layer. The action servlet is a struts servlet forwarding requests to struts action controllers. The servlet mapping is defined in web.xml, and the action path to controller class mapping is defined in the struts-config.xml. The action controller is a class performing actions based on the request path. Some examples of actions are view, edit, or delete. The action form bean is the model layer. This transfers data objects between the UI and the controller, and the bean name is used to map classes for the user interface defined in the struts-config.xml. The view layer is implemented with JSP. The action controller sets an action forward name, and the possible names or outcomes are defined in struts-config.xml. Inside of the struts-config.xml, we can find the name to JSP file mapping, or if we're using Apache tiles, that'll be in the tiles-defs.xml. Here we can find a struts request flow that does exactly what we just went over. So our client is going to send requests, and those requests are mapped in our web.xml to struts. The struts action servlet is going to forward those to the right action classes, which will take us to the action, and that action is going to forward us to the right action class. These will all be on the action form. Then the action form is going to go from the struts-config.xml or the tiles-defs.xml either to the JSP or to map the action form name to the classes. We're going to go over a quick struts example. So here we're going to create an action in the JSP. We're going to specify this portlet action URL, give it a name of edit layout URL inside of the var. We'll go ahead and define the portlet parameters, which in this case are struts action, and give it a value of layouts admin edit layouts. Then we're going to define the action to the controller in the struts-config.xml. So here we're defining an action with a path of portal edit layout and a type of com Liferay portal action edit layout action. We're going to go ahead and create an action controller. So this is going to be our public class edit layout action, which extends action with the action forward execute method. And you can see all of that below. Then we're going to go ahead and create an action form, which extends action form, and it'll have the methods getMessage and setMessage. Next, we're going to go ahead and define some of the name to JSP mappings inside of tiles-defs.xml. So tiles definitions, and the definition name is going to be portlet, and the path is going to be common themes portlet.jsp. Our next step is going to be overriding struts actions. Some of the steps for overriding struts actions are going to include things like finding the action path you are overriding, and this is going to be in the struts-config.xml. We're going to create a Liferay module project, and then create a new struts action component. Finally, we're going to override and implement methods as needed. And here's a quick logout action override example. Here you'll notice that we have a public class logout action override, which implements struts action, and we have method public string execute, which has the @override annotation. That takes us to the end of the slides. The action servlet forwards strut requests to struts action controllers. An action controller is a class that extends the org Apache Struts action and is responsible for performing actions based on the action path. The action form represents the model layer, and overriding struts actions in the context of Liferay means overriding action controller classes.